day everyone. I'm Gisa Arnigo, the AgriVenture Group, will report about the cacao and the coffee crop. So I'm here to discuss about the cacao. Did you know that the Theobroma cacao is the scientific name of cacao? Literally translates as the fruit, the gods in Greek. The first name, Theobroma cacao, was first given the cocoa tree by Carolus Linnaeus, the father of modern-day taxonomic plant classification. Cacao is the Mayan root word to be described the tree and its product. It is grown mainly for the seed known as cocoa beans, which are used to make cocoa mass, cocoa powder, and chocolate. The first cacao in Asia was planted in the Philippines. In 1670, while commercial from developed in the 1950s. However, production started to decline due to several factors such as a weather and climate condition, pests and diseases, infestation, and aging trees. The decline was further aggravated by increasing world market, price and competition with other plantation crops such as banana and palm oil. Despite its competitive advantages, the Philippines cacao production at present only stand at 10,000 to 12,000 mount from the 20,000 to 25,000 hectares of land planted with cacao bean industry estimated. Cacao region contributes 80% at the national cacao production, having 19,769 hectare LGU data. Of land planted with the cacao in 2015, the rest of Mindanao contribute 10%, while the remaining 10% is being shared by Luzon and Visayas. On account of productivity level, a declining yield from 2005-2014 was noted, despite of the expansion of industry in terms of area. Although area expansion was observed yearly, the volume of production at 0. kg to 1 kg per tree per year is rated 2 kg per tree per year, set by the industry to beat the 2022 Cacao Challenge. Genetic expressions of the existing is at 3.5 kg per tree per year. Cacao production from April to June 2013 increased to 22,000 metric tons, or by 9.9% from 2,200 metric tons in the same quarter of the previous year. Davao region was still the major producer of cacao, with 1,59,000 of metric tons output to the country's total cacao productions for this quarter.
Good day, Ma'am Levy. Good day, classmates. I'm Dexter Ticuares, and today I'm going to discuss production practices and economic importance of cacao. With the Philippines' location conducive for cacao production and accessible to domestic and foreign trade, heightened the interest of local farmers and exporters to push for a more dynamic and competitive cacao industry that can compete with other major cacao growing nations. But why cacao? This is the primary question being asked by those who have reservation as to the real potential of the cacao industry. Basically, cacao may significantly contribute to poverty alleviation and inclusive growth to livelihood and job generation. Cacao production only requires small monetary investment or startup capital. This explains why 90% of the growers' area of small farm holdings. The suitability of cacao as an intercrop for coconut and banana. The 2 weeks harvest interval and the early gestation period of 18 months are some of the most valued advantage of the high-value crop. The early return of investment and high profitability of the product also ensure good income augmentation potential. Above all, the industry is market-driven considering that cacao has no product substitute. Its diversified uses as food and non-food warrants a sustainable marketing opportunity. The Philippines is a net importer of cacao. On the other hand, global supply shortfall is expected to be at 1 million metric tons by 2020. In the Philippines, there are three major cultivar groups being grown by farmers. These are the Criollo, Forastero, and Trinity. First is Criollo. It's considered as the most prized, rare, and expensive variety. It is native to Central and South America. It is believed that the first cacao seed planted in the Philippines was the Criollo variety, brought via Acapulco, Manila galleon trade in 1670. Only 5% of the world's cacao production is Criollo. This variety is difficult to grow as extremely susceptible to pests and diseases. The beans are white to pale pink in color and recognized as a superior quality, less bitter and more aromatic. The second is Forastero. A native of Amazon Basin, is the most versatile variety and most commonly grown cacao. It is mainly grown in Africa, Ecuador, and Brazil and accounts for 80% of the world's cacao supply. It is significantly harder, disease resistant, and high yielding. Third variety is Trinitario. The hybrid of Criollo and Forastero combines the best of the two other main varieties, the hardness and high yield of Forastero and the refined taste of Criollo. It is the predominant fine flavor cacao and can be found in all the countries where Criollo cacao was once grown, including Southeast Asia and the Philippines. It is being used in about 10% of the world's cacao supply. The cacao tree is grown into the tropics in a band between 10 to 20 degrees north and south of the equator, sometimes called the cacao belt. It grows most notably in Central and South America, West Africa, and Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Did you know, classmates, the first cacao in Asia was planted in the Philippines in 1670, while commercial farms developed in 1950s. Production level reached 35,000 metric tons. By 1990, however, production started to decline due to several factors such as weather and climatic conditions, pests and disease infestation, and aging trees. The decline was further aggravated by decreasing world market price and competition with other plantation crops such as banana and palm oil. Despite its competitiveness advantage, the Philippine cacao production at present only stands at 10,000 to 12,000 metric tons from the 20,000 to 25,000 hectares of land planted with cacao per industry estimate. The said estimate is higher as compared with the figure shown by 2015 Philippine Statistical Authority, which was at 13,910 hectares, only producing 6,020 metric tons. As you can see in the figure, by 2016, around 38,785,095 seedlings were distributed and planted. If proper trainings will be provided to beneficiaries and appropriate production protocol will be observed, this will provide a big push for the industry. As illustrated above, the Davao region contributes 80% of the national cacao production, having 19,769 hectares of the land planted with cacao in 2015. The rest of Mindanao contributes 10%, while the remaining 10% is being shared by the Luzon and Visayas. On account of productivity level, a declining yield from 2005 to 2014 was noted despite of the expansion of the industry in terms of area. You can see on the screen the annual domestic consumption of the Philippines from 2002 to 2012 was on powder and cake equivalent to 7,738 metric tons, or 73% of the total annual domestic consumption. The growing number of restaurants and coffee shops serving cacao-based drinks and food items, and the growing industry of medium and small-scale chocolates requiring high-quality cacao beans. The large import of cacao powder and export value of chocolate is being credited to major chocolate manufacturers in the country who seldom buy local cacao beans. Instead, they use imported powder and cacao butter for the raw materials. This in effect increases the formation of cacao powder, making it the leading cacao product import in 2014. Consequently, some of the finished byproducts produced by local manufacturers are being exported to other countries. The economic importance of cacao that needs government support, the potential and significant contribution of the cacao industry to employment and income generation led various government agencies to initiate intervention that will support the development of the industry. Here are the programs designed to provide support are as follows. High Value Crops Development Program of the Department of Agriculture, DA. National Greening Program of the Department of Environment and National Resource. Coconut Cacao Enterprise Development Project of the Philippines Coconut Authority. Research and Development Project of the DA Bureau of Plant Industry and Academic. Government support programs and projects touches various levels of the cacao industry value chain and is expected to transform and empower cacao farmers into thriving cacao communities, which are essential foundation for sustainable cacao farming. To reach these goals of transformation and empowerment, collaborative and harmonized intervention among government agencies, including private and non-government organizations, are being considered by the industry and the stakeholders.
Good day to our instructor in apiary, Ma'am Livy Sarokam. Good day, ma'am. And also good day to all future educators. My topic is about pest management for cacao. So, shall I start? Experts attribute the shortage to the aging cacao stands in the cacao producing areas, adverse impact of climate change, and presence of pests and diseases. What is the impact of climate change on plants? Climate change causes warmer summer temperatures and inconsistent precipitation patterns. These environmental alterations affect the flowering periods of plants globally. As the global temperature increases, plants will flower earlier in the season. How do pests and disease affect the growth and development of plants? Plant pests and pathogens interfere with the growth and cause damage to cultivated and naturally growing plants. The interference and damage result in the failure of plants to reach their genetic potential. The Philippines has around 17,300 hectares of land planted with cacao, mostly backyard gardens or smaller plantations. Mindanao, on the other hand, has large farms that account for 90% of the total country production of cacao. One of the concerns of the cacao commodity is the inadequate support to integrated pest management or IPM, as pointed out during the Conference on Integrated Pest Management in the Asia-Pacific region held in 1991. What is integrated pest management? Integrated pest management is an effective and environmentally sensitive approach to pest management that relies on a combination of common sense practices. IPM programs use current, comprehensive information on the life cycles of pests and their interaction with the environment. These are 4 insect pests and diseases of cacao in the Philippines. These are the cacao pod borer, cacao merid bug, black pod root, and vascular streak dieback. Infestation of these pests leads to high annual losses in cacao production, affecting both farmers and related business. The diseases and vectors. Remove diseased trees as well as their neighboring cocoa trees. This works for small outbreaks. When more than 100 trees in one area and disease, adjacent cocoa trees up to 15 meters away with disease symptoms should be removed. Alternative methods include using resistant cocoa trees when planting cocoa. Check with your local cocoa research institute and find out about resistant varieties. When establishing new cocoa farms where possible, plant trees away from non-CSSV areas. Use natural barriers such as oil palm, coffee, and citrus to prevent or slow down the spread of the mealybugs within cocoa farms. Use of systemic organophosphate insecticides was tested to control mealybugs was hazardous and had lethal effect. Insecticides are not currently recommended. And that's all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good day. My name is Shara Minaragohel, a third year student of BTL Ed, SECT Mainit Campus. The topic is all about pre and post harvesting handling. So here it is. First is harvesting cacao. Pods containing cacao beans grow from trunk and branches of the cacao tree. Harvesting involves the removing of ripe pods from the trees and opening them to extract the wheat beans. The pods are harvested manually by making a clean cut through the stalk with a wheel-sharpened blade. The pods are opened to remove the beans within a week to 10 days after harvesting. In general, the harvesting pods are grouped together and split either in or at the edges of the plantation. Then, the best way of opening the pods is to use a wooden club, which, if it strikes the central area of the pods, causes it to split into two halves. It is then easy to remove the wheat beans by hand. Post-harvest processing. After harvest, the cacao fruit is fermented, dried, and stored. Then, the farmer's income are dependent on the amount of cacao they can sell, and the success in post-harvest processing is dependent on the interaction between environmental factors and factors related to the process. Then, climate change impact. Prolonged intensive rainfall and low temperatures increased pod infections rates and rooting. High temperatures and drought lead to smaller bean sizes and delayed maturation. Then, we are here in fermentation. There are many various ways in which farmers are engaged in this process of cacao fermentation, but all methods depends on removing the beans from the pods and putting them together or in a box to allow microorganisms to develop and initiate the fermentation of the pulp surrounded by the beans. Then, the piles are covered by banana leaves. According to ICCO 1998, after the cacao beans and pulp are removed from the husk, small holders typically cover the hips of cacao with plantain or banana leaves and let them ferment for approximately 5 days. Periods of intense rainfall increase the time required for fermentations because temperature changes, droughts, and a prolonged dry seasons affect the flavor and overall quality of the products. Unlike farmers in the West Africa, cacao farmers in Latin America tend to ferment the cacao pulp surrounding the beans using wooden boxes. In Indonesia also, farmers rarely take part in the fermentation process because their production is valued mostly for cacao butter, but which is unaffected by fermentation. Then, we are here in drying cacao beans. The next step after fermentation is drying the cacao beans. The cacao beans are dried after fermentation in order to reduce the moisture content from about 60% to 7.5%. Drying must be carried out carefully to ensure that off-flavorous are not developed. Drying should take place slowly. If the beans are dried too quickly, some of the chemical reactions started in the fermentation process are not allowed to complete their work and the beans are acidic with a bitter flavor. However, if the drying is too slow, molds and off-flavorous can develop. Various research studies indicate that bean temperatures during drying should not exceed with 65 degrees Celsius. Then lastly, the storage. During storage, beans are risked to damage from humidity, pests, and mycotoxins. and that is according to Dumin et al. 2018. Environmental risk factors increase the probability of damage to cacao during storage.
Hi everyone.
Hello everyone, I am Marjorie Gallardo Amakitan, the next reporter. My topic is all about cacao current trends and production of plantation crops. Cacao tree is grown in the tropics in the band between 10 to 20 degrees north and south equator, sometimes called the cacao belt. It grows most notably in Central and South Africa, West Africa, and Southeast Asia, especially Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines. It bears fruits in 18 months but reaches full bearing capacity in 5 years, producing 70 to 100 pods or more per the tree per year. As you can see, the illustration have blue line and red vertical line. So the blue line, the demand of cacao beans is constantly increasing since 90s. Consequently, global production, the red vertical line, is generally increasing to meet the global demand, though slight fluctuations of production is noted in some years. Global cacao production since 1991 is lower compared to the global demand as the result project supply shortfall by 1 million metric ton by year 2020 has been forecasted by industry experts. This illustration, they show that in exports of cacao and its preparation in 2015 were from the countries in Europe such as Germany and Netherlands. Cacao producing countries such as Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana were the top exporters of cacao beans in 2015. So, for this illustration, USA has imported value of USD 2.3 billion in 2015, followed by China and Germany. Most of the cacao beans exported by the cacao producing regions are marketed to grinders in these countries. Being the home of giant confectionery companies such as Mark Inc., Mondelez International, and Henry Foods Corporation, among others. And that's all for today. Thank you.
So after the cacao, let's proceed the coffee. Coffee grown worldwide can trace its heritage back century of the ancient coffee forest and the Egyptian plateau. The story goes that Caldi discovered coffee after he noticed that after eating the berries from a certain tree, his goat became energetic that they did not want to sleep at night. Coffea is the scientific name of the coffee. Coffee is made from the bean of the coffee plant. Coffea arabica of Coffea coffee tree produces enough beans for about 40 cups of coffee per year. Because fruit does not all sit at once. Most coffee cherries are harvested by hand rather than by machine. Philippine coffee production remains relatively low and it's unable to even meet a local consumption demand. Coffee production was at 62 metric tons of green coffee beans in 2019, but Filipino consume 100,000 metric tons of coffee a year and drink almost as much coffee as the people of the United States, Brazil. The production of dried coffee varies from April to June 2001 at 5.87 thousand metric tons or decline of 0.3% compared with the 5.88 thousand metric tons output of the same period of 2020. Robusta coffee was still the most produced type, which contributed 56.6% to the total produced during the period. Jane was the top coffee to producer with 1.80 thousand metric tons output or 30.7% share to the total production for this quarter. This followed by Davao region, an autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, with respective share of 21.8% and 21.3%. So my co-group mates will continue this topic.
Hello everyone, good day. My name is Hans Ilardo and I'm going to report about the economic importance of coffee here in the Philippines. Coffee is not only a popular beverage here in the Philippines but also worldwide. As per statistics, billion cups of coffee are being consumed daily. Today, various of coffee bean suppliers in the Philippines became popular due to increase in consumers' demand. The Philippines has various rich lands where it's possible to cultivate, grow, and produce quality coffee products. According to a study conducted by Kantar World Panel Philippines, Filipinos shifted from being moderate to heavy coffee drinkers. And heavy drinkers are those who purchase and consume coffee products thrice a week or 126 times a year. In comparison to regular coffee drinkers, they only purchase twice a week or 81 times a year. The sales growth was driven mainly by the increase of 3-in-1 coffee mix purchases in markets, specifically in Metro Manila, South Luzon, and even in Mindanao. For the past 2 years, this growth has been consistent. It is then concluded that 93% of Filipino homes and those homes with older persons purchase coffee mixes once a week. And the result of the study conducted shows that every Filipino household buy coffee, specifically 3-in-1 varieties. Having said so, coffee now holds the title of being Filipinos' staple beverage. It remains to be the go-to drink of Filipino to help them fuel their day and boost up their energy. It is concluded that about 320,000 more households are purchasing coffee mixes in just the South Luzon area alone. If we're going to include NCR and Mindanao, consumers in average are spending respectively 193 pesos and 110 pesos more for their coffee mixes. The seen increase is also consistent for the last 2 years. The ongoing coffee craze in the country is said to be reflected in the Filipino shopping habits, as seen in the increased purchases of such products over the past years. There are several local, small, and medium coffee processors of roasted beans and ground coffee in the Philippines. Nestle Philippines Incorporated, located in Cagayan de Oro, is the largest local processor of soluble coffee, which accounts for 80% of the instant coffee market. It is followed by Universal Robina Corporation and then followed by Commonwealth Food Corporation. In 2015, the top 3 producing regions were concentrated in Mindanao, namely Davao Region, Sacsargen, and ARMM. Collectively, they contribute 68% of coffee produced in the whole Philippines, and Sacsargen accounted for 37% of total output in 2015, or 13,479 tons of coffee beans, followed by Davao Region with 16% or 5,840 tons, and then the ARMM with 15% or 5,263 tons of green coffee beans. And the total area planted to coffee in 2015 was 113,738 hectares. And the Top 5 regions with the biggest planting area for coffee are: first, the Saxargen with 26,731 hectares, Davao Region with 17,344 hectares, ARMM with 13,946 hectares, Calabar Zone with 13,409 hectares, and Northern Mindanao with 11,709 hectares. That's all for this topic. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Good day, ma'am. I'm Roslyn, and I'm going to tackle about the coffee pest diseases and their management. The coffee berry borer. It is the most destructive and hardest to control coffee pest. Young coffee berries infected by coffee bearer turn from normal green to yellow-orange. Shortly afterwards, the fruits fall prematurely. Infected mature and ripe berries are mummified and remain attached to the tree. So this will be the result in the falling of the fruits from the trees. Also, it loses in the weight and quantity of the seed. To control this berry borer, collect and destroy all infected berries before and after harvest, including those that fall to the ground, to eliminate suitable breeding and feeding site of the insect. Also, you can apply insecticides at recommended rates only when necessary. And here's the result, how this coffee berry borer affect. Next is the stem or twig borer. This pest is called the black twig borer. It affects by extensive tunneling of stem or twig borer larvae in young coffee branches. To control coffee borer, collect and burn affected branches. And here's the result, how the black twig borer attack. Next is the mealybugs. The gray mealybug is abundant during the dry season. It lives on the tender parts of the plant and sucks the sap and secrete honey, which encourages the growth of the sooty mold. Gray mealybug and sooty mold cause falling and softening, wilting, and curling of the leaves. This will be the result when mealybug attack the coffee berry. To control this mealybug, remove suckers and branches that touch the ground to prevent ants. Warm up and then cold oils mixed with insecticides. Next is the cotton cushion mealybugs and filamentous mealybug. It occurs year-round and produces waxy secretion on the shoots, leaves, and in between berries. Plants attached by these bugs become stunted with underdeveloped berries. So to control this mealybug, remove weeds and scales that harbor the insects. Also, you can apply insecticides if needed. And this will be the result, how this mealybug will affect the coffee. Then white grub. It is a big larva that eats the roots of the coffee, causing death in young plants and stunting in old plants. To control this white grub, killing the grubs or by applying appropriate insecticides if necessary. Next is, let's move on to the coffee disease. Coffee rust. It is the most destructive disease of coffee. Coffee rust is caused by Hemileia vastratrix. Initially, coffee rust is manifested by small yellowish translucent spots in the lower surface of the leaf. As the spots enlarge, powdery yellow to orange spores are produced on the underside of the affected leaves. The affected leaves drop, leaving bare branches, and the tree may eventually die if left unchecked. Actually, this coffee rust will easily transmitted by the wind, rain, and human contact. To prevent coffee rust, use resistant strains like India. For susceptible strains, spray with copper-based fungicides at 2 to 3 weeks interval at the onset of the rainy season until the berry mature. Next is dieback. Dieback is characterized by drying of branches and twigs from the top progressing downwards. It has two forms: physiologic and pathologic. The former may be caused by overbearing nitrogen deficiency or inadequate carbohydrate supply. Hence, vigor of trees should be maintained by fertilizing with the right kind and amount of nutrients at the proper time. The latter could be due to fungi, example, Colletotrichum coffinum, Cercospora coffinum, or Himalaya bacteroides. Pathologic dieback is manifested by the appearance of spots with concentric areas on the leaves of coffee seedlings and grown twigs, causing falling off of twigs and berries. To minimize pathologic dieback, apply copper-based fungicides. Next is tree blight. This is caused by a fungus known as Pellicularia coleroga. This disease affects coffee located at high altitude, especially during the rainy season. This is characterized by growing grayish-white threads that are tightly glued to the branches, which later cover the petrally and send outside shoots to under surface of the leaves and berries. Thus, leaves overlap and twigs come together. At the later stage of the disease, the plants turn brownish. To control this disease, prune affected trees and burn diseased plants parts in order to allow sunlight penetration and proper aeration. Next is anthracnose. This disease is manifested by the appearance of light brown to dark brown spots with grayish-white center that turns completely gray as the disease progresses. The spots first appear at the margin of the leaves, which then spread to the twigs. Infection in berries appear as sunken black spots. So to control this disease, prune and burn affected branches and apply fungicides as needed. And that's all. Thank you.
Hello, it's me again, Hans Elardo. The next topic is coffee production practices. The first one is the farm sanitation. Growers and agricultural workers should remove diseased or damaged plant to prevent the further spread of disease in the production site. Removal of infested or infected plant parts from the tree and from the soil is recommended. Consequently, burning of the infested or infected plant parts in designated proper area is also encouraged. The next practice is the waste management. Waste should not be allowed to accumulate in the coffee processing area. It should be further managed by keeping the storage area for wastewater clean and dry. Reuse the water as well as recycling the coffee pulp, coffee hull or husk, and rejected beans are encouraged. These waste materials and byproducts can be utilized as raw materials in the production of feeds, compost, and other industrial uses. Next is the land preparation. It is recommended that the area for planting coffee should have deep, fertile, friable, and well-drained soil but has sufficient water holding capacity. During transplanting, the hole should be sufficient wide and deep to avoid breaking or bending from the top roots as possible. When necessary, shade trees shall be planted to meet the appropriate sunshine requirements. Next is the soil conservation. For areas with steep slope, about 15% of gradients, coffee plantations should implement erosion control measures which include contouring, silt pits, mulching, cover cropping, and planting crops against the slope. In planting coffee trees along the contour, the rows of the coffee should run at right angle to the direction of the slope. Meanwhile, other anti-erosion measures such as contour ridges, contour bands, contour ditches, and vegetative measures that are designed to disrupt the downward flow or rainfall runoff, collect and convey runoff to major waterways and then to a drainage channel should also run along to the contour during coffee rows. Water management. If coffee plantations are rain-fed, planting should be done at the onset of rainy season. Otherwise, irrigation is recommended for planting during dry months. The care should be taken to ensure that the soil around the coffee tree is not dried out after planting and that the moisture is maintained. Furthermore, water use should be managed to ensure sustainability. Next one is pruning. Pruning is recommended to maintain the correct balance between leaf area and crop, thus preventing overbreaking and dieback. Maintaining good tree shape, reducing biennial bearing, and providing a supply a good growth for the next season's crop, detopping of all trees and rejuvenation of all trees are recommended to facilitate the farm operations. Attain desired height of coffee trees and obtain maximum yield. Pruning will maximize and improve yield as such is a necessary activity for the growers. Pest and disease management. In order to control infestation and diseases such as coffee stem borers, coffee berry borer, coffee rust, and berry rot, the growers should regularly inspect and monitor the production site for presence of pests and diseases. Once observed, the infected tree should be tagged and recorded for further observations. The results of the inspection and monitoring will be used as basis for deciding the best management strategy and implementing interventions to treat the affected areas, thus eradicating pests or diseases. And aside from production area, other facilities are also checked for presence of population density of pests and damages it has caused. The last one is the use of pesticides. The harvested coffee cherries are usually protected using chemical crop protection products. Pesticides that are target specific and have minimal negative effect or impact in the agroecosystem and environment should be used. Choice of crop protection strategies should be appropriate to the pest and disease being controlled. Growers should use agricultural chemicals that are FPA registered for coffee cultivation and or approved in the country where the produce is to be traded. That's all for this topic. Thank you for listening.
Good day everyone, my topic is all about pre and post-harvest handling coffee. So there are two strategies for harvesting the coffee cherries which are widely used. Number 1, strip picking. Strip picking, with this method, all the fruit is stripped off from the trees mechanically or by hand at one time. As you can imagine, this means a mix of ripe and not so ripe fruit being picked. The advantages of strip picking or strip harvesting are that it requires less time and labor to complete. Number 2, selective harvesting or selective picking. As the name suggests, selective is selecting only the ripest coffee fruit by hand. This leaves the unripe coffee on the tree for future harvesting. With this method, only the ripe fruit is harvested. So let's move on to the next slide. Coffee pre-harvest. It is not certain whether OTE producing fungi can infect coffee fruits and grow to produce OET still on the plant. It is possible that infection on the plant may involve two different contamination routes, either through the flowers without visible sign or by insect invasion such as the coffee berry borer or CBB, Hypotenemos hampe, that can carry spores to the fruit by making holes in the cherries and one or more tunnels in the beans, leaving visible signs. So there are recommended practice to reduce the development and spore load from OTA producing fungi on coffee plants and beans, are keep coffee plants by Gorius through the regular use of good agricultural practice or GAP at the proper time, such as weeding, improving soil texture, pruning, fertilization, or pest and disease control and irrigation. Next, do not use overhead irrigation during the flowering period. This could augment or increase the normal spore dispersal rates and increase the chance of infection of beans by OTA producers. Next, use traps such as alcohol traps for hypotenuse hampe control before harvesting and encourage the use of Integrated Pest Management or IPM program. Last, avoid disposal of uncomposted organic waste from coffee or any other source in or around the plantation. Coffee seeds and seeds associated materials such as dust, earth, parchment, and other seed processing residues can allow proliferation of OTE producing fungi. Move on to the next slide. Coffee post-harvest handling. With milling. So when we say milling, means a process of machining using rotary cutters to remove material by advancing a cutter into a workpiece. With milling, this is the first post-harvest practice, which is where coffee are washed, sorted, and prepared for drying. This is focused on separating the fruit of the coffee cherry from all superficious bean within. Number 2. Natural processing. It is the cheapest way to process coffee, and it also more environmentally friendly. Natural processing is also the most old school way to process coffee. After picking the coffee cherries from the coffee trees, they are spread out in thin layers to dry in the sun. Next, number 3, dry milling. It is actually not one process, but rather a number of different processes which prepare the beans for transport and sale. Dry milling, this is the final stage green coffee goes through before it is sold and shipped to the roaster. The beans are directly placed onto large beads that are fully exposed to sunshine. Next is drying. It is the most critical steps in coffee processing methods. Drying is performed to reduce the moisture contents of coffee bean to the required level 10 to 12% and to separate the parchment from the coffee beans easily. So, the last but not the least, number 5, storage and transportation. Once the coffee has been picked, processed, milled, and sorted, the final step is to package, store, and prepare it for transport. So that's all.
Good day everyone, especially to our instructor, Miss Livy Sarokam. Ma'am, good day. By the way, I am Jismi Bugakdel, taking the course of Bachelor of Technology and Livelihood in Education, major in Agri, Fishery, and Arts. I'm here to discuss my assigned topic, which is the current trend in production of plantation coffee in the Philippines. But before we proceed, I have some little video to make you energized.
369, the goose drink wine, the monkey chew tobacco on the street called line. The lion broke, the monkey got choked, and they all went to heaven in a little rowboat. Clap, 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 snap, clap, pat, clap, snap, clap, clap, everybody.
As one of the world's most favored drink and source of energy per student and employee, coffee continues to be an essential part of daily life. The total coffee consumed in the Philippines year 2020 published by the Statista Research Department on June 16, 2021. The total coffee consumed in the Philippines in year 2020 was about 3.3 million 60 kilogram bags. This reflects a long-term increase in coffee consumption over the year. The production value and per capita production index. While the consumption of coffee showed an upward trend over the last year, the production value of the commodity in the Philippines pesos in 2018. In the same year, the per capita production index was only 61.36% compared in 2012. Where does the Philippines stand in coffee export across the Asia-Pacific region? Across the Asia-Pacific region, the country placed 6th in 2019 for the export of green coffee. The productivity level compared to other countries in Asia-Pacific was relatively small. Even though the export and production of coffee are low in the Philippines, the market is still vibrant due to the demand for instant coffee. Globally, the market size for instant coffee as of 2016 was valued at 28 billion US dollar. The Philippines has been one of the leading consumption market for soluble coffee, also known as instant coffee, since 2011. The total coffee consumption in the Philippines. In year 2011 is the lowest total coffee consumption. It has 2,175 bags, and the year 2018 is the highest. It has 3,300 bags of the total coffee consumption. In year 2017 to 2022, Philippines Coffee Industry Roadmap. Production area and yield. At the global level, total production by all exporting countries from 2014 to 2015 increased by 0.7%. Philippines production increased at a faster rate for same period at 35%. The top 30 coffee producing countries. According to Food and Agriculture Organization or FAO statistic, Brazil is top global producer in year 2014 with the volume of 2,804,070 mt of GCB. It is followed by Vietnam, Colombia, Indonesia, and Ethiopia. However, the Philippines ranked 25, a volume of 37,727 mt of GCB, and the lowest or top 30 countries is Yemen at volume of 20,357 mt of GCB. In the Philippines, small farmers grew coffee. Based on the official statistic from the PSA, production has generally declined by 3.51% per annum over the past 10 years from 52,047 tons GCB in the Philippines to 36,171 tons of GCB in year 2015. Local production area harvested and yield in year 2015. In year 2015, the top 3 producing regions were concentrated in the Mindanao, namely the Davao region, SOCC, Iskik, Sargent, and ERMM. Collectively, they contributed 68% of the coffee produced in the whole Philippines. SOCC, Iskik, Sargent accounted for 37% of the total output in year 2015, or 13,479 tons of green coffee beans, followed by the Davao region with 16% or 5,840 tons of GCB, and ERMM with 15% of 5,263 tons of GCB. Percent share in volume of production by region. Based on PSA estimates, Robusta accounted for 24,924 mt or 69% of total production, followed by Arabica with 8,717 mt or 24% in production in year 2015. Area planted of coffee variety. The dominant regional producer of Robusta and Arabica coffee were the Davao region and SOCC Iski Sargent, while the Excelsa was mainly produced in Western Visayas and ERMM.